medieval city streets and archival paintings of 15th century Spain. The Spanish Inquisition, a name that still evokes a shiver of fear and a cloud of mystery. When we hear those words, we often picture shadowy figures, secret trials, and a climate of terror. But what was the reality behind the legend? Established in 1478, this institution became one of history's most infamous, charged with a chilling mission to root out heresy, enforce religious conformity, and secure the absolute power of the Catholic monarchs. It was an era of fear, faith, and fire. For over 3 centuries, it cast a long shadow over Spain and its colonies, leaving a legacy that continues to haunt and fascinate us to this day. Join us as we journey back in time to uncover the true story of the Spanish Inquisition, an institution built on fear and power. Maps of 15th century Spain and portraits of Ferdinand and Isabella. So where did this fearsome institution come from? To understand the Spanish Inquisition, we have to look at the world of late 15th century Spain. The Iberian Peninsula had just been unified under the rule of 2 powerful monarchs, Ferdinand II of Aragon and Isabella I of Castile. Their ambition was not just political. It was deeply religious. They envisioned a Spain united under a single faith, Catholicism. This vision, however, required them to deal with a diverse population. For centuries, Christians, Jews, and Muslims had coexisted in a complex, often tense, society. The primary targets at the outset were the conversos Jews who had converted to Christianity, often under immense pressure. The Crown and the Church suspected that many of these conversions were not sincere and that these new Christians were secretly practicing their old faith. The Inquisition was created as a tool to investigate and purify the Catholic flock. But what began as a targeted campaign against conversos soon spiraled. The Inquisition's mandate expanded, and its watchful eyes turned to Morisco's Muslims who had converted and eventually anyone suspected of deviating from strict Catholic orthodoxy. It was the beginning of a systematic effort to enforce ideological purity with devastating consequences. Now we shift visuals to illustrations of tribunals, scrolls, and shadowy figures. How did the Inquisition operate with such terrifying efficiency? Its power lay in a sophisticated and sinister structure of control. Across Spain, tribunals were set up, each acting as a combination of police force, prosecutor, and court. The system was fueled by a network of informants and spies, turning neighbors against neighbors. The most potent weapon in the Inquisition's arsenal was the fear of anonymous denunciation. Anyone could be accused, and the accused would never know who pointed the finger. Once you were in their grasp, the process was designed to break you. Trials were held in secret. The accused were often not told the specific charges against them or the names of their accusers. They were isolated, held in grim prisons for months or even years, and pressured to confess. The psychological torment was immense. The goal was not necessarily justice but conformity. Every step, from the secret accusation to the final verdict, was designed to reinforce the absolute authority of the church and state, creating a society where dissent was not just silenced but unthinkable. This web of secrecy and fear kept entire communities in a state of constant anxiety. Dungeons, chains, and flickering candlelight, that was the scene looked like. Scary and gloomy. When psychological pressure wasn't enough, the Inquisition resorted to more direct methods of persuasion. Coercion was central to its operation, and while torture was not used in every case, its specter loomed over every interrogation. The goal of torture was not to punish, but to extract a confession, the ultimate proof of guilt and a justification for the Inquisition's actions. These methods, while horrifying, were considered legally sanctioned at the time, employed to save the soul of the heretic by forcing them to admit their sins. But the real spectacle of power came after the trial. The punishments were designed to be public and humiliating. The most famous of these was the auto-da, or act of faith. This was a grand, public ceremony where the condemned were paraded through the streets, their sentences read aloud before massive crowds. Punishments ranged from fines and public shaming to long prison sentences. For those found guilty of heresy who refused to recant, the ultimate penalty was death, often by being burned at the stake. These public executions were not just about punishing an individual. They were a brutal and theatrical warning to everyone watching, reinforcing the terrifying consequences of stepping out of line. While the exact number of victims is still debated by historians, it is clear that thousands lost their property, their freedom, and their lives. Let us look at visuals, shows portraits of accused individuals, and an animated timeline of major trials. The Inquisition's reach was long, and no one was truly safe. Its net was cast wide, ensnaring a diverse range of people. The conversos and moriscos remained primary targets for centuries, their sincerity constantly under suspicion. But as time went on, the definition of heresy broadened. The rise of Protestantism in Europe during the 16th century created a new enemy. Anyone found with a forbidden book or expressing sympathies for reformers like Martin Luther could find themselves facing an inquisitor. Even beyond religious minorities, the Inquisition targeted those who challenged the established order in any way. This included individuals accused of witchcraft, bigamy, or blasphemy. Some of the most famous cases involved high-profile figures, intellectuals, mystics, and even powerful church officials. These trials sent a clear message. Status and influence offered no protection. If you dared to question doctrine, engage in philosophical speculation that strayed from the approved path, or even criticize the Inquisition itself, you could become a target. This clampdown on intellectual freedom had a profound chilling effect on Spanish society, stifling innovation and critical thought for generations. Many had been extinguished. Institutions built on fear rarely last forever. The Spanish Inquisition, though incredibly powerful, eventually began to wane. After more than 350 years, its influence started to fade by the 18th century, an era when the Enlightenment's ideas of reason, tolerance, and individual rights began to sweep across Europe. The Inquisition, with its secret trials and brutal methods, seemed like a barbaric relic of a darker age. Its power was gradually curtailed, its activities slowed, and its tribunals became less and less active. The once feared institution was officially and finally abolished in 1834, closing a long and dark chapter in Spanish history. But its legacy is anything but simple. Today, the Spanish Inquisition is a subject of intense historical debate and a powerful cultural symbol. For many, it stands as a stark warning about the dangers of religious extremism and the terrifying consequences of unchecked state power. It serves as a reminder of what can happen when ideology is enforced through fear, and when a society sacrifices tolerance for the illusion of purity. Historians now sift through its vast archives not just to count the victims, but to understand the complex machinery of control and the human stories behind the statistics. It's a history that is studied, debated, and remembered, a cautionary tale for all time. Conclusion described by medieval cities, archives, and symbolic candlelight. The story of the Spanish Inquisition is more than just a grim footnote in history. It's a powerful and enduring lesson about the interplay of fear, power, and ideology. It shows us how easily a society can be controlled when dissent is silenced and conformity is enforced through terror. While the world has changed dramatically since the 15th century, the themes of intolerance, persecution, and the abuse of authority are still tragically relevant today. By studying this dark period, we don't just look back in horror. We arm ourselves with the knowledge to recognize these dangers in our own time. The echoes of the Inquisition remind us of the constant need to defend tolerance, protect individual freedoms, and question authority. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into one of history's most formidable institutions. If you found this journey into the past insightful, please give this video a like. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more historical explorations. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. See you next time.